like to welcome you to NRW Japan Fireplace WebTalk. My name is Georg Löhr, and I'm the Representative Director and President of NRW Japan, the subsidiary of the Economic Development Agency of the State of North Rhine-Westphalia, NRW Invest. Welcome you to today's event on the topic of digital health, COVID-19 as a catalyst for changes in the German NRW and Japanese healthcare system, about developments in medical regulations, clinical environments, and business opportunities. This is today's schedule. I shall speak initially, welcome you, give you some information about today's web talk. Then I shall give you a short introduction about the medical and healthcare industry in North Rhine-Westphalia and Germany, with a bit of a focus on the topic of digital health. Then we will have a presentation from Professor Dr. Christian Dierks, attorney at law and managing partner of Dierks Company, who is also a member of the advisory board of the cluster Medizin.NRW in Düsseldorf. We'll then have a short Q&A session and have a presentation after that Q&A session by Mr. Osamu Izuka, who is the CEO of Medmain Inc. from Fukuoka, who will jointly present with Dr. Masayuki Tsuneki, Board of Director member and pathologist, as well as Ms. Leona Shinkai, a marketing representative. This will again be followed by a short Q&A session. We will then have the third presentation by Professor Dr. Kenji Suzuki, CEO and co-founder of PLIMES Inc. From Tsukuba, a startup from Tsukuba. Professor Suzuki is also professor at Tsukuba University. Again, followed by a Q&A session. Now, then we will have an open discussion, as open as it can be on a web talk such as this. And I really would invite you to ask questions and to join us in the discussion. As things develop, we may be a little bit going a bit beyond our time. North Rhine-Westphalia. Well, just to give you a short overview of the reasons why we would like you to come to North Rhine-Westphalia. Well, it's at the center of Europe. It's the industrial heartland of Germany. We have many world market leaders. We are the investment location #1, and we have excellent access through airports and trains and other means. We have especially important world-class R&D and universities. We have a great pool of talents. We are very proud of our excellent logistics facilities, and we are in the digital transformation. And finally, we think that there is a great quality of life in North Rhine-Westphalia, especially now that soccer is back. We're here in Japan. NRW Japan has been here since 1992. And that's why I would like to show this slide to you. Düsseldorf is, of course, the Japan business hub in the EU. We, as #1 state in Germany in terms of population, GDP, and FDI, are very happy to have more than 650 Japanese companies in our state. Of course, we have many other foreign companies, but the Japanese companies are especially at our heart. So it was really very unfortunate that this year, thanks to Corona, the Japan Day could not take place. Normally about 600,000 to 700,000 people come to this festival. Speaking of Corona, this is just an update, the timeline. I won't go into this in any detail, but as you can see on the right-hand bottom of the slide, we are reopening for business. And while it's still a little bit difficult to travel from Japan to Germany, I think in due time these restrictions will also be lifted. I think Germany has, of course, despite the fact that we have had many casualties due to COVID-19, still done a relatively good job at containing the crisis. Maybe not as good as Japan, but anyhow, I think we are on a path to recovery. Now, NRW, as I mentioned, we have some big names. You see here like Deutsche Post or Evonik, Henkel, Bayer, and others. We have many hidden champions also, some of which are very important during the COVID-19 crisis, such as companies like Innovatec or Reifenhäuser or MS Westphalia, which produces ventilators. Innovatec produces melt-blown textiles for masks and so on. Reifenhäuser produces the machines for that. But as you can see, we have many, many other hidden champions. This is just a selection. Now, our company, as I mentioned, has been here since 1992, and we support our Japanese clients in many ways. Of course, also startups, as you can see here on the upper right-hand side, QD Laser, in the middle, Cyberdyne, Xenoma, and also others. This is our team and what we do. I will just fly over this. We're always happy to help Japanese companies wanting to go to Germany or wishing to partner up and cooperate with German companies in our state. Thank you very much. So, fireplace talk. Well, normally I would now raise my glass and say kanpai to loosen up the atmosphere a bit, and I hope everyone has a drink, be it the morning coffee in Europe, and yeah, here in Japan we're in the late afternoon. But as you can see, we have a long tradition since 2008 of these fireplace talks. What we do is we look at current issues and we research markets, products, technologies, and we try to find common themes and what the needs are, find out what the needs are for the Japanese companies and what we can offer on the German-European side. We see our client, Japanese client, in the middle of everything, and essentially what we do is we connect the client to all the stakeholders, which help the client to create his success story in Europe. Now, what's very important in this context is that we do have a number of clusters, regional clusters, also federal clusters in North Rhine-Westphalia, as you can see from many different industries. And in the medical area, of course, Medizin.NRW, i.e. Health NRW, are important in supporting these activities. Also, we are quite active in the 5G area on the through telecommunication companies at universities and so on. I mentioned the universities. Yes, we have excellent universities like RWTH Aachen, Bonn, Münster, and many others. And we have a lot of other research institutions like Jülich, DLR, the German JAXA, and Fraunhofer, Leibniz, Max Planck Institute. There is also an active startup culture in Germany, and NRW is right at the forefront of this. I think one can say that our characteristic is that we are very strong in B2B startups, which fits very well with the requirements of the Japanese startups, and that's why we are very keen on working with Japanese startups. Our medical and healthcare market in NRW is very intense, as you can see from that. I could now show you a map of the hospitals which have intensive care units in Germany, and you would see the same amount of concentration of intensive hospitals which have intensive care units. And it was reported in the media that quite a few patients from Italy and France and so on were brought to hospitals in NRW to be treated there. As you can see, we have a lot of hospitals and a lot of potential to do business in the medical and digital health area. We have 7 university clinics, which is the most of any of the German states. Yeah, we have several regions. Since the state is so big, the regions focus on different areas, and we're happy to bring you in contact with these regions. Here are some of the local or regional clusters in the health area. Then we have, of course, as I mentioned earlier, not only Japanese companies, but we have lots of foreign companies from the US, from the UK, the Netherlands, France, and so on. And some are very active also in the medical area, be it 3M or Stryker, Johnson & Johnson, and others. And on the left-hand side, you see some of the stakeholders in the medical area in North Rhine-Westphalia. We have been quite successful in bringing some Japanese startups to NRW, one being the startup Cyberdyne. They went to the stock exchange, yes, successfully. They even got their product, the robot suit HAL, approved in Germany before it was approved in Japan. And partially it is also remunerated by the insurance system. So this has been a great success story for us, and we have worked on this and have learned a lot about what we can do for startups. Also, QD Laser in Essen is a great success for the company. It is now selling this laser eyewear in Germany. We have trade fairs. We have also startups in the digital area. I will talk about that once more. Yeah, now we're talking about digital health startups globally. This is just a rough overview showing you that there are many, many players out there. And we have, of course, in Japan, many players in the digital health and digital startup area. But we also have quite a few interesting startups in Germany in the digital health area. For instance, the Digital Health Group, which was recently acquired by Coralie, which belongs to the Helios Group of hospitals. Visus is also a startup from North Rhine-Westphalia. Now, thank you for listening to my presentation. Now I would like to welcome Professor Dierks and ask for his presentation. Professor Dierks, we have known already for quite a number of years, is a specialist a lawyer for social and medical law. He's also a doctor, medical doctor, and he, a few years ago, after many years of legal practice, founded his own and a new company called Dierks Company, an innovation consultancy for healthcare and life sciences. And on the topic we have today, digital health, he is actually very closely advising the German government on these topics. I think he will mention that later also.
Okay, I would like to make you acquainted with a situation that we have in Germany, which is quite unique. And Germany has the potential that an app, a simple app that the patient or the physician can use on his smartphone, is actually part of our statutory health insurance and can be prescribed by a physician for the use of the patient, which opens up a new field of endeavor for many companies from all regions of the world. And the situation that we had until last year was like in most countries, that we have very interesting digital health applications, but the health insurance does not cover that service, which is a pity, because many of these digital applications have a very high benefit for the patient, and it would be so nice to make it possible to use it within the healthcare system. So what we did is that we, together with the University of Bielefeld, which is of course in North Rhine-Westphalia, we came up with an expertise on how it can be made possible that digital health applications can be part of the system. And this is something really unique. As far as we know, there is no other statutory health insurance system in the world that actually makes it possible to prescribe a digital application like is the case now in Germany. And what are the preconditions for that? The digital application, of course, needs a CE certificate. Now, all of you know that a medical device in the EU market requires a CE mark. And this is something which is different from what the situation is like at the PMDA or with the FDA in the US, because the system to establish a CE mark is a system based on private law. The law within the EU serves as a framework, and the companies make contracts with the notified bodies about the service to get a CE mark to a product. So this means for a medical device and a software, a digital application is a medical device if it contributes to diagnosis or treatment. That such a medical device, or as we say, a software as medical device, SAMD, requires no marketing authorization, no production permit, but notification to the Federal Institute, a CE mark, you know, the TIFA, for example. It requires that the company has a security officer, and it requires that there is a quality management system for the production of the software as a medical device. And this is something that now will be undergoing a certain change. Let me briefly introduce you to the risk classifications that we have seen so far. These are the risk classifications for medical devices as we have known them from the Medical Device Directive, which has been turned into law by each of the member states into a different medical device law. And here you see risk classes 1, 2A, 2B, and 3. You're aware of that. This is similar to risk classifications of other regions in the world. But as the medical device regulation will enter into force, and it has been postponed to next year, fortunately, I might add. But if this happens, then we'll see that software as a medical device will undergo a new classification too. There is Rule 11, and Rule 11 says that a software that is used for prevention or monitoring or for prognosis, however, is not used for decision-making, would be Class 1 in the future. We see very few software being Class 1 currently. Most of them would rather be Class 2A, which means a software providing information to take diagnostic or therapeutic decisions or monitoring physiological processes. So this is the information collection process, and a lot of the software that we see and that we counsel would be in Class 2A. If this is to look at a serious condition of health, we might have to find out that there would be the need to differentiate it from Class 2B, which is with more risk involved and which needs a closer look at. And finally, if the software really it contains a risk of death or irreversible deterioration of health, it should be class 3. This is, for example, a software that would steer radiology treatment, or that would control medication, which is crucial. And this is actually a point where the old classification was a lot softer than what it is now. How to get the CE mark? You start with the risk classification by yourself, take on the assessment to compile the technical documentation, approach the notified body. The conformity procedure will, in the case of a class 1 product, be executed by the producer himself, however, and in all other classes, you need the notified body. And once the notification and the certificate procedure is over, it will have to be informed to the official authority, and then the CE mark can be attached. Now, this is something that can be achieved within a couple of months. If it's a product that is already known, you might need some more time if the products are really innovative. And so when we counseled Cyberdyne, it took us a lot longer than just a couple of months to get the CE mark, but in the end it was successful. We are now working the consultation for QD laser for the CE mark, and there's also several other companies from Japan that we took along the way into NRW to establish their market there. Now, we also have to look at the customer. And the customer in Germany, of course, is the statutory health insurance. It covers 90% of the German population, which is only 70 million people. But it's a very important key market for the EU, because if you have established your product within Germany, it's very easy to sell this product in the rest of the EU. The structure is that this insurance is carried out by corporations under public law, and we have currently 100 different health insurances, but they all go by the same rules. So you might consider, for the purpose of negotiation or pricing, that this is like one board with an umbrella association. There's also a joint committee, which is composed of representatives from the statutory health insurance and physicians and hospitals, and they are in charge for assessing and evaluating all medical devices and all services before they are approved and can be reimbursed. Now, that was the situation until last year, and we saw that especially digital applications had a very hard time to be appraised positively by this joint commission. And the ministry was very critical of such a procedure, because if the assessment procedure would take longer than a year, of course, for a digital product, that is far too long. So they thought of something else and said, we need a fast track. We need a fast track for software as a medical device that can be used right after it's been built without a long process of evaluation. And so Professor Greiner and I wrote this expertise on the digital healthcare entry into the market, and we introduced it to the public. And this was the situation here that is depicted in this LinkedIn post. And it caused quite an alarm with the statutory health insurance, because they were afraid that now they would have to pay for apps that are not approved. But so far, everything has worked smoothly, and the discussion has been a bit smoother. However, I quoted Max Planck on that occasion, who once said that a new scientific truth does not triumph by convincing its opponent and making them see the light, but rather because its opponent eventually die and a new generation grows up that is familiar with it. And this is exactly the case, what happens in the German healthcare environment, that we see it, that the digital applications are really speeding up. We see a lot more of video conferencing, a lot more of telemedicine, a use of digital health applications at large, and the healthcare environment is making a lot of progress.
COVID-19 has been a huge catalyst for the digital health sector, I think.
Yes, you're absolutely right. especially the physicians, they have been fighting video conferences with their patients, and they always told us it doesn't work. But when they found out that the patients are contagious, they were quite agreeable with video conferencing with patients, and practically overnight it was accepted that the reimbursement for video sessions with the patient would be reimbursed. So this is it went very fast then. Let us take a closer look at what the digital health application actually is. The German word for digital health application is digitale Gesundheitsanwendung. And this is why the abbreviation DiGA now is virtually all over the place. Everybody is speaking about DiGA. Initially, everybody said it should be digitale Versorgungsanwendung. Then the abbreviation would have been DiVA. But I said we don't want a diva that is far too complicated and sounds whimsy. And so we said DiGA sounds more like digital. And actually, this term has been the one that we've been using ever since. So the DiGA is a medical device, which means a software as a medical device. And the main function of this device should be based on a digital technology. This is what you see here at number 2. And this device should be used to support the insured person, the insured patient, or the service providers, which is the physicians or the hospital. And it should be used to achieve a therapy goal, a therapeutic goal like the detection of a disease or monitoring or treatment or relief of a disease or injuries or disabilities. Now, you might see that there is one point missing in this therapy goal, and that is prevention. Prevention is, even though we initially suggested that prevention be included in it, prevention has been exempt from this fast track regulation because we already have another track for prevention applications, which is a Section 20 application. And so this is already in place, and we don't need another fast track for preventive apps. They are already accepted by the system. And the fast track is focusing on diagnostics and therapies, so to speak, in an abbreviation. What happens is that we start on the upper left now. If the app meets the condition for a digital health application, we can go to the Federal Institute of Pharmaceuticals and Medical Devices, which is sort of our PMDA, and the BfArM will accept this device. Then the physician will prescribe the app. The app has become standard care, and it can be used also if the insurance consents to the use of that app. The provider has to supply evidence of benefit upon listing. And if that is not yet present because it's fairly new and we haven't assessed it in full, then there can be made an agreement that the benefit will have to be proven over a period of 12 months. After that period, the benefit will be assessed. If it's not proven, the app will be taken out of the list. The interesting thing, and that makes it very, very dramatic actually, is that the manufacturer can actually come up with a price that he thinks it's right, and the insurance funds will have to take on the prescription with that price. There are certain limits to that, but if you say your app should be 10 or 20 euro per patient and per month, this is what the insurance fund would have to pay. After the 12 months period, there will be a price negotiation with the statutory health insurance. And we also need to see that if the app will be amended and you have different versions, 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, these alterations require a reassessment and reapplication at the BfArM. All in all, this works very fast. I have another slide that shows this more graphically. Starting on the left, you see that the manufacturer submits the application. The BfArM, which incidentally, of course, is also located in NRW in the city of Bonn, they will advise and examine. We have already participated in the first advisory meetings, which are, of course, digital meetings. The innovation office at the BfArM is very helpful. They are very keen to make this work. They are really interested in the apps, and they want that there will be good results from this process. So this is a very positive thing. And I think that especially in the first 2 years, there will be a prime mover benefit that whoever will apply will have some positive effects from the application, as we want the system to work. So the assessment will lead to a listing if the benefit is proven. If it's not yet proven, there might be a preliminary listing. This is what you see in the middle. And also, if definitely there is no benefit at all and the app doesn't work, or the data protection issues have not been resolved, then there's also the possibility of rejection. So after the testing phase, the listing will be turned permanent if the benefit is proven. And then on the far right, as you can see, there will be a price negotiation with the statutory health insurance. And if the service also requires the need of a physician's assistance, this is also something where we need to change the ordinance so that the physicians can render these services and get the service remunerated too. So winding this up, what is the task for a company? We should start with developing a product-specific strategy. Look at the product and find out where is the place in the system of the healthcare system. Then we identify the risk class, and if it's 1 or 2A, it's actually suitable for the fast track. If it's 2B or 3, it needs to go down the other alley with a joint commission, but still it's possible. We look at a cooperating clinic, and as you have seen, there is dozens of hospitals in NRW, and so far we've been very grateful, especially about the cooperation with the University Clinic of Essen, also Bochum and many other places that have been very helpful and very agreeable with our Japanese clients to find a place how to assess the products and produce results that make it acceptable for a CE mark. Next step then would be founding a subsidiary. And a lot of the cities in NRW are very supportive of that new foundation of a subsidiary. So you get some advice, consultation, or maybe even financial benefits from funding. You plan, and that is important, as you see here in the center. The planning for reimbursement from the very beginning is an important step, because most of the companies forget that we need not only a CE mark, we also need to give proof of benefit in order to negotiate with the insurance funds. So the benefit assessment need to be integrated. This is something where we take long preparations to integrate this into the clinical studies. We need to communicate with the authorities, and once the listing is done, you may start marketing and go into distribution, and then the patient will be happy that he can use the app and the insurance fund will pay for the application. So this is the very unique setup, and we're happy to see that there are many companies from overseas interested in that procedure and taking on that journey to get reimbursement actually for a large number of patients. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Well, we have one question from Bonn. Is there a KPI catalog including thresholds for the assessment of the benefit, or is this done rather freely individually?
Yes, we have, of course, in Germany, we have a lot of regulations, and so it's no surprise that there actually is a catalog of not only KPI, but of all other conditions that can be met. And that is a very good situation, because you can use this like a cookbook and go through a checklist of all the performance indicators that you need to meet. And this is what we do with the companies, take it step by step to find which indicators need to be met and what measures need to be taken to make it viable for the insurance. They don't have, we don't have a decision yet. They haven't started, but we will start in summer with the first application, and then we will see how that goes. And we're looking forward to a lot of a learning phase about the KPIs of the product. But they do have lists, and we're in a learning process for that.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much. I would now like to move ahead and introduce Medmain. The CEO of Medmain, Mr. Osamu Iizuka, developed software in machine learning, deep learning, and web during his studies at Kyushu University School of Medicine. He has a work experience as a web engineer in a startup, placed first at a pitch competition in Silicon Valley, and is winner of Kyushu University's President Award, and also, selected as Forbes 30 under 30 in Asia 2020. おめでとうございます。Company is still young, of course, as a startup. Today, Iizuka-san is presenting together with two colleagues, Dr. Masayuki Tsuneki, who is on the board of the company. Also, he worked at Niigata University, Yale University National Cancer Center as a pathology researcher, pathologist, and academic teacher, and joined Medmain also in 2018. So we will hear from Dr. Tsuneki later on. And before that, Ms. Leona Shinkai, who is the marketing representative of Medmain, will now take over. And I see you studied in the US and then also have some startup experience and did an internship at the WHO. Wow, I think that's very interesting at this time of the, during the COVID crisis, interesting experience. But joined Medmain last year in May. And before we move over to you, I would like Osamu-san to give us a short goaisatsu, greeting, and welcome everyone.
Thank you for the introduction. Hello everyone, I'm Osamu, CEO of Medmain. Konnichiwa.
Konnichiwa.
It's a great honor to have the opportunity to speak with you all today. Actually, my name has something with Germany. My name Osamu means to unite in English, and this is from the unification of East and West Germany. Thanks. So Germany is a very important country to me. We will talk about the present and future of digital pathology. In this current situation, the need for our business to promote digital pathology is now very high. Let me introduce Medmain team. They will guide you into the world of digital pathology. Masa, he is a pathologist and board of director. Leona, she is a marketing representative of Medmain. So now I will pass it over to Leona.
Thank you. Hi everyone, my name is Leona, and today I will be providing you a quick introduction of our company as well as our product Pitport. So just to share you a bit overview of our company. First, I would like to introduce our mission. Our mission is to create a world where medical services can be accessed with technology anywhere, anytime. So because our business and our company revolves around pathology, I'm going to introduce who a pathologist is. A pathologist is a type of doctor who observes patients' cells, tissues under a microscope with the naked eye. They are the ones who identify diseases, and they are usually the ones who make a final diagnosis, especially for diseases such as cancer. So I would also like to introduce the concept of digital pathology because digital pathology is key and the first step in providing our services. So digital pathology is the generation of digital pathology images from a microscope pathology glass slide. For instance, if a patient goes to a hospital or clinic to see a doctor and a doctor suspects that the patient has, let's say, cancer, he or she will recommend a biopsy or surgery. And during biopsy or surgery, the patient's diseased tissue or cell will be removed, then processed, and later on be placed on this glass slide that you see in the very first left image. So in digital pathology, this pathology glass slide will then get inserted into and scanned in a high resolution scanner called a whole slide image scanner. And this whole slide image scanner then produces a high resolution digital pathology image, or so-called virtual slide, that can be viewed on a screen shown by this very far right picture. So what are the issues in the medical field, specifically pathology, that Medmain is tackling today? One, there is a global shortage of pathologists, and two, there is a slow turnaround time, meaning patients have to often wait weeks and months to obtain their pathology diagnostic results, and this varies by country. So for instance, in Japan, there are approximately only about 2,500 pathologists, and patients could wait up to 3 weeks to obtain their pathology diagnostic results. So now going into our product and the services and the features that we provide, I'd like to introduce our product called Pitport. So Pitport's first feature that I'd like to introduce is our AI analysis to support diagnosis. And it is an AI-driven pathology screening. So pathologists are able to upload those digital pathology images that I had introduced earlier and utilize our AI to scan the tissues or cells of those images so that they can make a more rapid and more accurate diagnosis, simply for the AI to support the pathologist in their diagnosis. And our second feature is a remote pathology consultations and diagnosis. So with this feature, a pathologist in one location can obtain consultation from, let's say, a distant colleague, a distant pathologist, for a second pair of opinion, a fresh pair of eyes to look at a complex or maybe ambiguous pathology case, again, so that they can make a more informed and more confident diagnosis. And third, our cloud storage function. This is our cloud-based storage for digital pathology images. So pathologists can access them at any time, anywhere, by easily storing and managing those digital pathology images all on the cloud. And this last service that we have is our pathology slide digitization service called our Medmain Imaging Center. And what this is that we digitize those physical glass slides for the customer, meaning that the customer ships us their glass slides and we are able to digitize them for them and then provide them the digital images while also returning their physical slides. Currently, we have over 50 medical institution partners across the globe. So this is not just in Japan, but overseas. And we consider ourselves as a very global startup. So we are always excited to and are very looking forward to work with new partners to collaborate together, find new potential customers. We have been very fortunate to participate in and compete in numerous competitions, have also been awarded. And recently we have been able to exhibit at TechCrunch Disrupt in San Francisco. In the past, we've also exhibited in places in Estonia to Finland. And also most recently in February of this year, we were provided with the Japan Open Innovation Award, which was hosted by the Cabinet Office. And now I'd like to show you a quick video clip of our viewer. Okay, so this is our viewer. And what you are able to do on the viewer is that the pathologist is able to easily zoom in and zoom out on the pathological specimen just by utilizing their mouse, and also move smoothly between the pathological tissues just by using the cursor. And our viewer also allows pathologists to view the pathological specimen at a maximum magnification of 40x. Okay, and I will go back to my presentation. So that was a quick overview of what our viewer looks like. And now I'd like to pass it over to Dr. Taniki, who will be explaining more about our AI and pathology. Thank you.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Masayuki Tsuneki. So I'm the board director in Medmain and in charge of the Medmain AI development. So today, I'll talk about very exciting topics regarding the AI development in the Medmain. So our AI model called Medmain AI, its aim is towards the augmented intelligence. So our AI model focusing on the histopathological images as well as the cytopathological images, like something like here. This is representative images captured by a microscope. So such a histological image is targeted by the Medmain AI. So as you already know, that the cancer is now the leading cause of the death in many, many countries, especially the developed countries. So 91 out of 172 countries, cancer is leading cause. That is a very, now the cancer is almost the largest number of patients in all over the countries. So the distribution of the cases and deaths for the 10 most common cancer is listed in this pie chart. So there is an incidence and a mortality. So Medmain AI now targets to such a main cancer, major cancer, like the lung, breast, colorectal, such a pink arrowhead part. Medmain AI, we already have the models. So lung, breast, and colorectal, and stomach, and the uterine cervix and the bladder, such a urine model is a cytopathology model. That is a screening or a cytopathological analysis. So our AI model is almost covered such a common cancers. So today, I'd like to focusing on stomach and colon cancer because these two cancers is a high incidence in Eastern Asia and Europe countries. Before to explain about this, I'd like to just introduce about what a pathological diagnosis is. So pathological diagnosis, the main aim is to provide a definitive diagnosis to the clinicians and the patients. So usually pathologists look over the patient specimens under the microscope and write a report. And such a diagnostic report would be provided to the clinicians. And the clinician will explain about the diagnostic report to the patient. So what's going on and what's the options and the clinical and the therapies. So our AI model called the Medmain AI would be a powerful tool for a screening for a pathological diagnosis. It's targeting to assistant tool for a pathologist as well as clinicians. So again, I'm just focusing, just to emphasize it that the Medmain AI model is like the augmented intelligence model. Okay, so I'll explain about the our virtual slide system. So this is a pitpot. The virtual slide system that called the pitpot is a such an images viewer. So the virtual slide called the whole slide images WSI. This image is a human stomach endoscopic biopsy specimens. So there is 4 specimens here. And the pathologist always look over these under microscopy or such a virtual slide images. And look over 2 and 3 specimens, there is adenocarcinoma here. So why diagnose these specimens as adenocarcinoma? Because much more narrow down to the specimen and with a high magnification, such a yellow part area and the yellow arrowhead area, there is a numerous number of the adenocarcinoma cells spreading in it. So that is why this specimen is the diagnostic as adenocarcinoma. So our model is such a helpful for a screening tool regarding this. Just recently, 2020 January, we published this paper as a scientific report. Today, I would like to explain the detail of this. So before to establish the model, we will prepare the training set using existing specimen that is already diagnostic one. And the pathologist annotated such images, and annotated tissue will be cropped automatically. And then such a tile-based, this small square tile-based images is trained to the using a supercomputer, and the model would be established. And the model will be tested by the new image set. So this test set is completely independent to the original training set. And tile-based, using the tile-based approaches, such specimens will be cutted automatically into the square, and the square size tile-based one will be analyzed based on such algorithms and comes out a prediction. However, this is a tile-based. For a practical diagnosis, such a specimen-based diagnosis is necessary. So that is why such a whole slide image classification is needed using RNN model. So this, the main purpose of this is to establish a great model toward the practical diagnostic eyes. So such a tile image features will be accumulated and then to analyzed by the RNN model. And finally, to output should be comes out. In this time, there is 3 classes: adenocarcinoma and benign lesion adenoma, and not tumor lesion, non-neoplastic. So today, I just explained about the 2 examples of this. This is a stomach endoscopical biopsy specimen. So this specimen is almost a full area is the adenocarcinoma cells spreading. And AI model that is a heat map image is analyzed and detected almost the perfect detection for the whole tissue detection that is spreading exactly to match it to the spreading area for the adenocarcinoma cells. And the interesting slide is this slide. So this is almost the all majority of this specimen is the not the adenocarcinoma. This is almost like the gastritic tissue. However, only this yellow part, this is a pathologist annotated area that only this part adenocarcinoma cells is spreading. So Medizin AI can detect almost perfectly to this. So this would be a great tool for an assistant for a pathologist as a routine histopathological and surgical diagnosis. So this is ongoing project, and we are now also doing another organs that stomach and colon and lung, breast, and also do the cytopathological things. we are now doing such an existing model developed and further investigation for an existing model. However, in the future, we will do much more detail and such a genomic or big data approach. Our aim is to this study would be towards a precision medicine or in the future. And we would like to be a revolutionary changes in the digital pathology in the world, especially European regions. And we would like to do such a pioneer for a digital pathology field. So
that's great news. I mean, we are happy to support Medmain and all of you to find the right partners and to look at the market possibilities and how you can go into the German and European markets. So thank you very much.
And so great, thank you so much. So I'm very happy to such a collaboration with you guys. And if you have any questions and are very interested in our companies, please feel free to contact us to here, info@medmain.com. And any other, for example, product and researches, please feel free to contact me. Thank you so much.
Great, excellent. Thank you very much. Suzuki-sensei, konnichiwa. But I have one question here it's from Ostwestfalen. Minasan, konnichiwa. Since data protection is always a very sensitive issue in Germany as well as in Japan, and especially in healthcare, is Japanese data protection rather open towards digital health, or do you face serious barriers from data protection laws whilst developing or introducing your AI-driven products in the market? I think this is for Medmain. So maybe you want to shortly comment on that?
Sure, I can comment on that. I'm not sure about what the regulations or the laws are in Germany, but in Japan, it is rather a little more lenient compared to what we've seen in countries such as the United States. And specifically for our business, we have been very, careful with, especially when it comes to data privacy, data protection, because we do deal with, because our data does revolve around patient data. However, when the data that we get, we split them up into the data that we get, that we utilize for our AI training, and the data that we receive for one of the services that I did introduce earlier for our Medmain Imaging Center, where we digitize the slides that the customers ship to us, and we provide them the digital pathology image. Especially for the imaging center service, we simply borrow the slides that we get from them, and then we return them. So we do not hold any of the data or any of the physical slides that we receive. We don't utilize them. We don't store them. Therefore, we just borrow them just so that we can provide the digital image and then just give it back to the customer. So that does not go, we do not, break any of the laws. That's just how it is here. And so we make sure, again, that everything that we do, we abide by the laws. So what I've seen here, it is rather a little more lenient, but for our business, it hasn't been a tremendous hurdle. We've been able to overcome them. Great,
excellent. Well, due to pressing time, I think we'll leave it at this one question and save the other questions for the open discussion. Anyhow, thank you very much to everyone from Medmain, and let's move on. So now we would like to hear the presentation from Professor Suzuki from PLIMES, and just as a short introduction, Professor Suzuki studied at Waseda and physics and pure and applied physics. And since 2016, he's a professor at Tsukuba University in the Faculty for Engineering, Information and Systems, principal investigator of the AI laboratory, and his interests are in AI, cybernetics, wearable robotics and devices, effective computing, social robotics, assistive robotics, so very close to, I would assume, to Professor Sankai. And we're happy that you started this great company, PLIMES, in 2018, and are keen to hear from you now more about PLIMES.
Thanks for the great introduction. And then also thank you for giving me an opportunity to introduce our company and device, which is called Gokuri. We are developing the AI and IoT technology for measuring swallowing in order to enjoy eating for even a day.
Yeah.
So the PLIMES company, as already introduced, is since 2018 April, a spin-off company of University of Tsukuba. We have some corporate vision to empower people to live free, and then designing affordable technologies to social challenge, which is that we try to transfer technology to the society from the university. So today, this device Gokuri, which is what kind of problem and what kind of social challenges we are doing, I'm very happy to share with you. So problem is actually eating. So eating is right now, I think that everyone understands it's not just like getting a meal, just nutrition, just like also the social, a part of social life. Eating together with others is, I think, a wonderful opportunity. So right now, everyone understands well on that. But at the same time, what if your doctor said that eating may kill you? So this is a problem on that in everyone all over the world, which is that related to aspiration pneumonia. So now also with the aid of that the current situations, so pneumonia is also that a serious problem, especially in elderly. And then the food goes into that not the stomach but in the lung, so accidentally swallowing, which is called aspiration. So this happens in that the elderly and also stroke survivors. So what we'll do that if that eating may kill you, but continue to eat food is very dangerous in any cases. But of course, we are not able to do that. Not eating food is also like that the gastric fistula or some other that way to obtain nutrition. So the most probably people will choose that in between, like eat liquid type of food. So using that sticker and some kind of special food. But the very important thing is why it happens. So we need to know well about that ability to swallow food. So when exactly, how old it is, what kind of disease is related. So many things issues. But when you have some like that fever, you use like a temperature monitors. If you have some kind of like learning and everything, there are sensors, but there is no sensing systems which can measure the ability to swallow food. So then another issue is this. So this is the food for this liquid food. Can you imagine what it is? That light side one? Actually, this is sushi. So that this sushi is a type of liquid food. But even with that, is actually nice because it's continue to eat by that orally is very, very important. But death by dysphagia is that right now it's 40K persons per year in Japan. And the persons who need mealtime care is 1.2 million. So at that time, everyone that's scary about that. If it happens, when it happens, that aspiration pneumonia. So how we can solve that issue is that the challenge actually in this deployments. So I think that today is that like Germans the event. I prepare some of the statistics actually, but this is introduced by NRW people. So Japan is right now is that elderly is 33 millions, and stroke in Japan is actually 0.25 millions per year. But at the same time, this dysphagia, the problem with swallowing difficulty, Germany is actually the largest number in Europe. 20% of that European people of that the dysphagia patient is living in Germany. And statistically, like 50% of stroke survivor, 50% of Parkinson patient, 50% of nursing home students are also having problem of this dysphagia, swallowing this difficulty. But there are some papers and the risk factors for aspiration pneumonia in elderly is just we can see about that. This deterioration means that decreasement of swallowing function in the past 3 months. In that one is, if you see that in the past 3 months, your swallowing function is decreased, which means that 3.5 times of risk of that aspiration pneumonia. So very important thing is the answer is we can monitor about that swallows. But the current the medical issue is still limited. If we go to the hospital, we can use that X-ray or endoscopy. So then we can see about that. But you can easily imagine that because this is that eating, but not just normal eating. Exactly that. Everyone say about that. Oh, because I'm not very good at the checking this kind of under X-ray. But if I take a beer, my swallow is much better. But there is no way right now to guarantee or to verify that your swallowing ability is changing or getting better. So what kind of monitoring system is needed, we consider on that. In fact, that this is that one professor of neurosurgery is also advisor of this project. He is also the professor of neurosurgery. Problem is not just stroke, but also stroke survivor. They helped us to consider about that, how can contribute such kind of technologies. And then together with that, we made some kind of the devices, which is Gokuli. It is safe to swallow. So for swallowing measurement for the daily lives. It is very small and then connected to that smartphone. So this is actually a special stethoscopes for the swallowing. So this is recorded in that the smartphones that this swallowing sound, and also we measure also orientation of the neck. Very important to see about that what kind of postures you are eating or swallowing. Then all the data are recorded on the smartphone and also kept in the cloud. So today that's digital health issues is perfectly matching to this Gokuli. Yeah. We have very small light which can like visualize your swallows. And then green is good swallows, blue is that normal, red is cough. So very simple that the indications that this Gokuli has it. So
each year, tens of thousands of elderly people in Japan die of pneumonia in many cases.
So I think I would like to show that a little bit the mechanism of that.
Determined to make mealtime safe again, a young startup is asking.
Can you hear?
A little bit louder, maybe.
Okay.
Eating keeps us alive.
So maybe.
But for many elderly people, ingesting food is a leading cause of death. The problem is not the food, it's how we swallow. When you eat, food normally goes down the throat and passes through esophagus. But if the valve fails to close properly, the food enters the air passage leading to the lungs. That can trigger a type of inflammation called aspiration pneumonia.
So this is the simple that the movies, but easier to understand. And then, but so the Gokuli works like this, and especially to put on that waters or like the salivas or such kind of swallows, and to detect that, then properly to show that. We can see not just only that the swallowing, but also that the swallowing and the cough. Then the light changes at a different time which means that each swallow has different time durations, sometimes long durations, sometimes short durations. So this is a kind of like substitution, a part of a substitution of that X-ray systems. You can see that how much that water or boluses is passing in that pharyngeal path in the neck. Then with the university, we are working on some of that 3D swallowing analysis. So the Goku is showing in CT2. So exactly how much the anatomical background we have, and we do that on the research in the university. So let's move to a little bit about that the business side. And this is the Gokuli, what we do that, the swallowing measurement, and then understanding risk to lead that the proper treatment. So this is that the kind of assessment issues. So then not just in a hospital, but also like at home, we can provide that these swallowing monitoring devices. And the simple devices has, as already see that the sensors, LEDs, and IMU is orientation sensors, and the interface are that the smartphones. And then to collect that sound from that super stethoscope for swallows. But the important thing is we need to identify when exactly that swallowing happens. Swallowing sound research has been done since around that 15 years. Then, but based on that one, we collected many data. Then we try to train that the special the deep learning systems. This is that actually continuous sound signals. So some kind of customized special the networks that we designed. Together with that University of Tsukuba and the Kyoto Prefectural University and Niigata University contributed to collect that data. And then at the time, even in the university, we do actually more than 7 years of research, the basic research on that. When we started up the company, around 200 patient data we had. But after around 2 years right now, the more than the 6,000 of the users and the 30,000 the swallows data we have. So still not yet much the big data, but I think we're the most largest swallowing sound database, we believe. Mm-hmm. So this is that it shows many things, not only that the pathological diseases, but also good swallow or bad swallows. And also at the same time, we are now ongoing work is we are doing the eating behaviors. So this is like the sound wave of the Gokuli. Then now it is swallows. So even just by looking the video, so I think I will do that again. So not seeing that the waveform, but seeing that the person, when exactly when it's swallowed is actually very difficult to see. But the Gokuli properly and to detect a sound and count it on the number. And also this is a kind of a joke. So this is swallow per minute. So like beat per minute, how many times you eat that? So healthy participant actually 5 times per minute. Is that it is very interesting and not much changed on that. But this kind of pacing is very, very important. And then also during the meal time, coughing is also choking is also a very important signs. Then this kind of eating monitoring is also one of the part of our business. So I think that I think we would like to conclude that this is not just only that the simple medical devices, like that the preventions. So many kind of like cohort study. We have also 2 cohort partners. So more than 3,000 that the person contributed to that the measure that this swallows. At that time, the prevention is also one of the important things. After hospitalization, after stroke or any other diseases, but this kind of dysphagia issues is happening in parallel. When you start a meal again, rehabilitations, again to be back to the home and the care facilities. So these green part are more medical issues, blue part is non-medical issues. But I think that this kind of monitors, which is I think powerful tools to measure, very simply like that to see that swallowing functions. So several partners that we work on that. So the like daycare rehabs, care assistant, and then even nursing cares. But the important things is how to share the information. So this digital health itself is that how this kind of food is okay for that person. This person likes this food, but I think be careful. So in quantitative data, I think we can provide, we believe we can provide with that Gokulis. So the around 20 selected the clinical partners, and some of the company partners are not listed, are that the working together with us. And then this is that the user to monitor still on that the swallowing. So the current stage is that we are going to launch that some distributed version, actually the late of this year. So together with that NRW, we are very much motivated also to transfer this technology in the Germany too. And then at the time, in 10 years, for example, that towards a daily swallowing monitors. So in Japan, a lot of that blood pressure monitors for home is available. But since like 20 years of researches, which shows that the stroke incident rate is 1/3, and then the estimate of total medical expense reduction is actually 10,000 billion US dollars. So the simple that monitoring is also a very good help for the people we believe in that. But at the same time, this is the 30 years ago started on that. Then Omron Healthcare actually contributed to such kind of studies to distribute that device. So I think that we learn from that issues. Then the toward daily swallowing monitor is our that long-term goal in that 10 or 20 years. So this is the end. And then this is the reason why I chose that the company name is PLIMES. It's anagram of simple. So that the simplifying problem and simplifying solution is that our providing the services. Thanks for your attention.
Very convincing. Thank you very much, Suzuki-sensei. That was really exciting and very interesting. I think actually we have already heard from our interested parties in Germany that really this question of dysphagia, or enge, as they say in Japanese, is a big issue, especially for societies such as Japan, Germany, where many elderly people are living, and so this is a great project, and we are very grateful that you are interested in working with us. Well, I think we are, well, nearly on time to enter into the open discussion. And I would like to encourage you to ask questions if you are, and the questions are coming in already. So the first question is from Taichi Soga. He's from NHK. Many thanks to panelists for interesting presentations. I think that medical digitalization will be a big part of our new normal life after the crisis, and Japanese government is now, for example, considering to legalize the temporal online diagnosis permanent. Great. What is needed more to make digital health move ahead in Japan? So this is a question by Soga-san. Maybe Izuka-san, you would like to comment on this? It's a general question, but you're right in the middle of digital health.
Nick-san, can you answer?
Okay, so I think what needs to make it normal in Japan is that maybe okay, so from my experience that now the medical field is such a using the paper things and writing things is maybe the most common one. So I think now evolutionary changing these days, and such a virus infected such a serious situation will be such a coming away for promoting such a digital diagnosis and digital aids for a treatment, I think. So I cannot say exactly the correct answer to this question. However, these are now such great waves coming in. I think so.
Yeah, I think, I mean, Soga-san rightly pointed out that this arrangement for online diagnosis is perhaps right now due to Corona.
I think so.
Crisis. But I think once the Japan Medical Association and others have given their okay, and especially people have had more experience with that, I think people will understand how valuable this is. I have actually someone on the line here. Muragaki sensei, can you hear me? Muragaki sensei? Muragaki sensei, 聞こえますか? Hi. I mean, Muragaki sensei, you are one of the pioneers of digital health in Japan. Especially famous is your Scott operating theater. How do you see the current situation, or do you have any questions or comments for our presenters?
Yeah, thank you very much for your introduction about our smart cyber operating theater, Scott. Right now, we are doing a clinical study. We have already done the surgery, more than 100 cases in Scott. So we got a very good result for integrating data and by middleware, and it support the surgical decision making right now. And today's presentation is very, very interesting, especially pathology and also prevent the some kind of pneumonia. So I have two questions for each presenter. So first question is that about AI pathology. So are you using not only HE staining, but also other immunostaining or other stuff for special diagnosis? And the second question is what is the accuracy about the only HE and addition to the immunostaining? I understand my question.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So I will answer your question. So first question regarding only based on HE staining, things that our model is only based on HE stainings.
Okay.
Yeah. However, such the training from the training set, there is we already read the pathological reports that is mentioned about immunohistochemistry and sometimes fish data.
Okay.
And so such a data will be now also considering for as a training set.
Mm-hmm.
And the second question is that regarding accuracy, right?
Yeah.
So so based on HE staining, the model that the accuracy is almost perfectly to it's almost, you know, so accuracy is a very difficult term. You know,
Okay.
like that. So,
because,
so sometimes we called it at AUC.
Mm-hmm. AUC, okay, that's fine.
Yeah. AUC, that is great. So AUC is that almost so over the 0.7 AUC is great, right? So our model is at much more than 0.7.
Okay.
So and in our paper that we wrote it at over 0.91. So that is a really, really high accuracy.
Okay, so my suggestion is that if you add the immunostaining, maybe AUC will go up maybe 0.9 or something like that. No?
So I think that it's dependent on a training set.
Okay.
Yeah, it's totally dependent on a training set. So such a complicated cases or controversial cases, sometimes we need such immunohistochemical record, I think. Such a immunohistochemical record will increase or some eye to improve the accuracy, I think.
Thank you,
So,
Dr.
yeah.
Tsuneki and Iizuka and Shinkai. And I hope your staff will go out the world, and many pathologists and patients will be helped by your AI staff.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you, 村垣先生。
はい。
それでよろしかったでしょうか。
Only one question for Professor Suzuki.
Yes, please.
I think it's also very interesting because I'm neurosurgeon, so I saw many patients of that kind of pneumonia. So about your AI, well, how many types of the swallowing disturbance in your patient, and also what kind of therapy depends on that kind of the different types?
Thank you for your questions.
Yeah.
And then this is that in details, we try to identify good swallows.
Mm-hmm.
So which means that if parsing that our filters, which means that this is proper swallows.
Mm-hmm.
Even if sound coming, not proper swallows, which means that it happens irregular swallows.
Oh, I see.
Then, so it means not to identify some kind of tricky swallows. We just to try to get that some kind of, this is proper swallow or not. So then important thing is that also as our breathings. So the swallow after breathing is also very important information. In order to that, we need that when exactly happen the swallows.
Oh.
So the answer to the question is, it is not like classifying some different type of swallows.
Okay.
Then we actually, but this is very good point, and I didn't expect that such kind of like question.
Okay.
But actually, we have some too, like the tricky swallows, which is very much close to that aspirations. So in this kind of things, it happens that first we need to identify when exactly that swallows, and before and after swallows, having some information. So this is that my answer.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's okay. I was very impressed that you are fashionable, good design device.
Yeah, I thought that was really good. Good
Very
design.
fashionable.
Very nice.
Actually, I found that name of the Professor Matsumura in that participant list.
Okay.
So I think that he also knows everything, and please contact.
Okay.
Yeah, 村垣先生、どうもありがとうございました。Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
So, actually, we already have Matsumura sensei online. Matsumura sensei, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you for your question. You wrote a question also, but you wrote that I think this is probably for Professor Dierks. In earlier times, health insurance system in Germany were independent, like Ortskrankenkasse, Berufsgenossenschaftskrankenkasse. Does it mean that all the health insurance is now in a unified payment system like in Japan? And does GBR determine the cost for each new technique? Christian.
Yeah, thank you. Matsumura Sensei, it's a pleasure to speak to you again. We have met on several occasions in Tokyo, I remember, and I recall that you have a profound knowledge of the German system. Now, the situation you are referring to is that we actually have 100 different insurance funds from different systems, and there is an overarching legal framework that is essential to all of the insurance funds. And underneath that overarching framework, we have the possibility for each of the single funds to act independently and to create their own services with own provisions, own insurances, and maybe own contracts with hospitals and service providers. You might recall that there's an insurance called Barmer Krankenkasse. Now, the Barmer, for example, has more than 30 independent contracts with digital healthcare applications. And What we are now facing is that all these applications will be approved on a federal level. And this is indeed what you have described as a unified payment that will be valid for all of the insurance funds. Mm-hmm. As for the second part of your question, whether the joint committee, the GBA, determines the cost, they are not involved with the digital healthcare. That was the idea behind it, because the Joint Commission is a very reliable, very expert committee, but it's very slow. And we want a fast track. And this is why we created this innovation office at the bee farm. And they are in charge now, but they don't work about money. The cost is independent of that assessment and the listing. So if you enter the system, you take whatever it takes, the cost, and the system will pay for that cost. And there will be a price negotiation starting after that, which will create the price for the month 13. So, and if a product is really cheap, like it costs just €1 per month and patient, there will be no price negotiation because it's just not worth it. Whereas if a certain cost limit is exceeded, then it will not be paid. So there will be limits to that. And these limits will be agreed upon in a contract that is currently negotiated. And we are supporting the industry on that negotiation part. And on the other side is the insurance funds. And we hope to come to an agreement in June to find the corridors for this reimbursement. So once again, Matsumoto Sensei, for your question.
Yeah, thank you very much, Matsumoto Sensei. Now, may I ask, Tohoku University is on the call today. Narita-san, can you hear me?
Thank you very much for your for the interesting presentations. I'm very interested in that. And especially the Dr. Suzuki's aspiration pneumonia is very interesting for me, because my mother is 87 years old now, and she had experience of aspiration pneumonia. Yeah, and fortunately, she's now very fine, but such a problem, aspiration pneumonia is very, very big problem in Japan because of the aging society. Yeah, it's very, very interesting. Thank you very much. And I would like to introduce our Tohoku University's efforts of the startups in NRW at Tohoku, NRW. Can I talk about that? Okay. Can I introduce that? Okay.
Hi.
Yeah. And very short and two issues. And for the past 2 years, we have been working with North Rhine-Westphalia foreign government, the city of Düsseldorf, and Miyagi Prefecture, and JETRO to participate in and deliver on Medica. The Medica, as maybe all of you are very knows Medica. This is the biggest matchmaking in the world on medical equipment. And since last year, we have been closely exchanging information with NRW, KK, and we are searching after corona research and development, because I think the supply chain would be getting internal from now on. And on the other hand, globally, many countries, each country's scholars and professors collaborated. And such a phenomenon is, I think it's a promoting. And second issue, and a very short story, biology and digital, and this corona catastrophe, COVID-19, can be seen as a disaster, one kind of disaster, not natural disaster. And disaster measures with a view to such a pandemic, such as the understanding of the movement of people and the response to such a pandemic. And in our opinion, this is a very good idea. And I think it will be interesting. Study seeds towards coronavirus. It's very, very dangerous. And AI and robots and such a equipment, one kind of medical equipment or other kind of equipment is very suitable to use for the dangerous virus and other disaster kind of the disasters. I think so. And if you answer to me, what do you think about from now on, after Corona, the AI and the robots are using as such a dangerous field and dangerous part of the study, and the professors, I think the professors should be collaborating together to develop the new kind of study seeds. What do you think about that?
Sensei, maybe you want to comment?
Maybe, I hope Suzuki Sensei.
Actually, definitely yes. And then I think that we had such kind of great experiences at the Tsukuba since more than 10 years. How that working together with medicine and engineering, and this is I think very important. Not just like that they just talking. In fact, we have the laboratory in the hospital too. So like in the daily life, like that, in that easier way to reach that the hospital. So for example, like that right now that face shield, like 3D printing face shield is right now is the many institutions and we made that 3D printer that face shield for the hospital. But in our Tsukuba, already by the end of March, we also delivered around 100 face shield because that we didn't publish that and well not promote. But this is for us, it's daily life. Is that just a very simple chatting? Right now is a lack of face shields, such things. We can do that by 3D printing. In 2 days, the prototype is ready. So I think not just we see that after the corona, more like this biomedical or the engineering and the medicines. I think Tohoku is one of the leading place. But the more I think we believe that the mechanical engineers, robotics people will contribute to that the medicine is I think very good things. I have many that friends there. I think that the dozen of friends there. So we can also transfer our good experiences and the hard experiences also to them. And we hope to, I think that collaborate. And I'm very happy about that.
Okay, Narita-san, thank you so much for your question and comment. I'm sure we will find interesting projects with startups and collaborate with you. Tohoku University is really a fantastic university, and I'm sure there are lots of opportunities. Yeah, so I would like to check whether we have any other questions. How is the time? Yeah, I would like to, if possible, ask someone from Germany. I see here Professor Sauerwein is on the line. Sauerwein Sensei, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Gobusata shitemasu. So very nice to have you on this web talk. Obviously, because you were also always a big promoter of NRW Invest and NRW Japan, and we have already completed successful projects like QD Laser with your support and help, but there are also still a lot of projects ongoing. And I understand that maybe Professor Dodel might be interested in the project with PLIMES, because he said many of the patients or the inhabitants of his senior aged people's homes, some of them with dementia, some with Parkinson, have great interest, or that is a huge issue for him. So yeah, but anyhow, Wolfgang, first of all, congratulations to your big wie sagt man das, Orden, you received from the Japanese government a big medal. Congratulations for that, for your years of work in in cancer research and also working between Japan and Germany. So do you have any questions or to our panelists?
Thank you, first of all, for the congratulations. I was really very honored. In preparing this event now, I have spoken to several of my colleagues, and there is a big interest in the device of Professor Suzuki. If a clinical test is needed, we have we have a very big network for stroke in our city. There are all hospitals are collaborating in this. And of course, we have also the rehabilitation is organized in a quiet, if I say centralized, it's wrong, but coordinated way. And there is a big interest as well from the geriatric clinicians, but also from the neurologists who are in charge of it. So if you need clinical trials, we can organize it in a very fast way and very effective way.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. That's such kind that the feedback. And then we are working hard to develop. This is the devices, which is like the authorized devices, because the safety regulations, those things are there. We much hard on that. So this version is we can deliver within this year. Because of Corona, the bit delayed, but still that we are mostly in time. I found that the chief data technology officers and also the chief operating officer are listening to this talk. I didn't know that actually, but we are working hard on that. So it's a good opportunity for us also with the aid of NRW. Then we are very happy to work together with your teams. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, Professor Sauerwein, I have someone raising his hand. Just a second. Yamaguchi Sensei.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, thank you very much. And this is Masahiro Yamaguchi, Vice President for Global Engagement in Tohoku University. I just have a short comment. And I just want to say that the universities in Japan are quite very much keen to contribute to the prevention of the COVID-19 in this particular situation. In fact, in our university, Tohoku University, we made a kind of survey inside the university within 1 or 2 weeks during the Golden Week holidays. Despite this time, surprisingly, more than 200 proposals of the research and development research related to this COVID-19 were submitted. Of course, some of them are medical, from the medical school, and there are many applications from the, the nanotechnology or the digital technology to the medical areas. So I would say that this is the right time to collaborate, accelerate the collaboration, despite this situation that everything becomes online. And I hope that we'll be able to collaborate more with the university and business partners in the NRW region. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yamaguchi Sensei. Thank you so much. I think, in fact, one word I like to use in this context is the digital twin, so to say, that it's important to develop both the physical contact, but also the digital contact. And over the past weeks, I've attended so many events and webinars, and some were in Germany, and this opens up so many new opportunities, which is just fantastic. And normally at a fireplace talk, we would have maybe 20 or 30 people. but today we actually had about 140 applications, and I think about 110 persons actually signed in. Some persons, I apologize, were not able to sign in, but I mean, everyone who is on the call was able to sign in. But I think it's great because this really opens up new avenues for cooperation, and especially the COVID-19 or the coronavirus research. I think that's really a big international challenge, and therefore, thank you so much, Yamaguchi-sensei, for your comment and for your contribution. Yes, I would like to ask if there are any other questions. We have one more journalist from Nikkan Kogyo Shimbun, Fujimoto-san. Can you hear me? Fujimoto-san?
Hi.
Nice. Thank you for joining today's web talk. I know you also have your own event this week, next week, so you are very busy. Please go ahead.
Thank you. And I'm Fujimoto from Monozukuri Nihon Kaigi, the Japan Manufacturing Industry Forum at Nikkan Kogyo Shimbun, the industry target site. I just make a comment. The other day, I posted a blog that a face mask is more crucial than Facebook in this coronavirus pandemic world, and it is a face mask that could become a next promising wearable technology after Corona or post-Abeno mask era. And it's only a bad joke, but we realize that healthcare is the top priority in our society at the pandemic of the virus. And from Professor Dierks and Professor Suzuki's presentation, and I also got to know that smartphone apps is one of the key elements of digital health. And as you know, Google and Apple are very focusing on healthcare through smartphone and smartwatch with sensors and AI. And Roeru-san mentioned that Cyberdyne's robot suits HAL is a great example for collaboration between Germany and Japan. I'm quite sure that between two countries, company to company or university to company collaboration would be the basis for creating innovation in digital healthcare. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, I think we are over our time budget. I would still like to ask some more people, but I have to respect your time budget. And so I would slowly like to come to the end, if it is okay with you. So we are at the end of this, what we normally call Dobata Kaigi. I'm sure we will in future also be streaming some of our physical events, but for the meantime, we are here at your disposal. Here you see myself and my colleagues who also helped to arrange today's web talk. And I would like to say thank you to them. But in particular, of course, I would like to thank all, in the name of my colleagues, also all speakers of today's event and the participants. And I would like to say thank you to everyone who joined. And the next NRW Japan Web Talk is already scheduled for 26th of June, and we plan to look at the topic of M&A. After the Lehman shock, we saw a lot of companies in liquidity problems, which led to actually a number of Japanese companies helping companies from Germany, NRW also with major investments. Japan's companies are very cash rich, so in the future this could again happen, although right now we are not in a liquidity crisis, it's more a demand crisis, in parts supply crisis. But anyhow, I would like to thank you very much for attending today's event, and please come again. Please stay in contact, and please contact us whenever you feel you want to discuss about investments in Nordrhein-Westfalen or in partnerships with partners in Nordrhein-Westfalen. So once again, thank you so much. And with that, I would like to close today's session.